Jakarta, Indonesia. Interesting facts about Jakarta. Jakarta, largest city and capital of Indonesia. Jakarta lies on the northwest coast of Java, at the mouth of the Siliwangi River, on Jakarta Bay and embayment of the Java Sea. It is coextensive with the metropolitan district of Greater Jakarta, Jakarta Raya, and nearly coextensive with the Daerah Khusus Ibu Kota special capital district of Jakarta, the latter also including a number of small offshore islands in the Java Sea. In 1966, when the city was declared a special capital district, it gained a status approximately equivalent to that of a state or province. The city has long been a major trade and financial center. It has also become an important industrial city and a center for education. Area Special Capital District, 255 square miles, 661 square km, POP, 2010 per Jakarta, 9,586,705. 2020 Special Capital District, 10,560,2088. Landscape, city site. Jakarta lies on a low, flat alluvial plain with historically extensive swampy areas. The parts of the city farther inland are slightly higher. It is easily flooded during the rainy season. The draining of swamps for building purposes and the continuous decrease of upland forest vegetation have increased the danger of floods. With such an excess of water in the soil, Jakarta has a shortage of clean drinking water, for which there is increasing demand. The area is quite fertile for fruit and other horticulture, as most of the soil is of old volcanic origin. Climate. Jakarta is a tropical, humid city, with annual temperatures ranging between the extremes of 75 and 93 degrees Fahrenheit, 24 and 34 degrees Celsius, and a relative humidity between 75 and 85%. The average mean temperatures are 79 degrees Fahrenheit, 26 degrees Celsius in January and 82 degrees Fahrenheit, 28 degrees Celsius in October. The annual rainfall more than 67 inches, 1,700 millimeters. Temperatures are often modified by sea winds. Jakarta, like any other large city, also has its share of air and noise pollution. City layout. Although the Dutch were the first to attempt to plan the city layout is probably more British than Dutch in character, as can be seen from such large squares as Maidan Merdeka, Freedom Field, and Lapangan Banteng in place of the Gower Large, Wild Ox. The Oriental style, or Indisch style, as the Dutch call it, is apparent not only in the city's way of life, but also in the types of houses, the wide, tree-lined streets, and the original spacious gardens and house lots. In Kebayoran, a satellite town built since World War II on the southwestern side of the city, and in other modern developments, the houses and garden lots are much smaller than in the older colonial districts. Jakarta has long been a city of new settlers who assimilated local ways and became Jakartans themselves. Some traditional neighborhoods can, however, be identified. The Kota City, also called Kota Tua Old City or Old Batavia area, sometimes called the downtown section, is the historical city center, and it houses a significant part of the Chinese population. The contemporary city's business and financial hub lies somewhat to the south of Kota, primarily along Jenderal Sudirman and Mohammed Husni Thamrin roads in central Jakarta. The area of Kemayoran Progress and Senen, originally on the eastern fringe of the city, is now almost central in its location and increasingly has become the city's major retail area. The Jatinegara Real Country section, originally a Sundanese settlement, but later incorporated as a separate town, then a Dutch army camp Meester Cornelis, is now merged with the rest of Jakarta and includes many new settlers. The Maintang and Gundangdia sections were formerly fashionable residential areas near the central Maidan Merdeka then called Weltevreden. To the west, Tanah Abang Red Earth, and Yoti Petamburan, like Kemayoran, densely developed. Tanjung Priok, the harbour, with its own community attached to it. The most common type of house in the city is the kampong, or village, house. Most such houses are built of materials such as wood or bamboo mats, but this does not necessarily mean that they are substandard. Another common type of housing, often used to house government workers, is the colonial urban house, or rumah gedongan. Such houses are mostly single-family detached or semi-detached, each standing on a separate lot. Apartment buildings constitute a more modern category. Although they are more economical in the use of land than single-family types, their architectural and construction costs often make them fairly expensive. Housing is generally overcrowded. Some of Jakarta's buildings, such as the Portuguese Church 1695 in Kota, are of architectural or historical interest. Some of the buildings around the city square in Kota also date from colonial times, including the Old City Hall 1710, which has been restored and now serves as the Municipal Museum. The National Archives building was originally the palace of a Dutch Governor-General, Abraham van Riebeeck. The Ministry of Finance building, facing Lapangan Banteng, also was designed as a governor's palace. Herman Willem Dindels, one of Napoleon's marshals. The Presidential Palace, north of Medan Merdeka, faces Monas, or Monument Nasional Monument. The Istiqlal Mosque, in the northeast corner of Medan Merdeka opposite Lapangan Banteng, is one of the largest mosques in Southeast Asia. The National Museum, formerly the Central Museum, on the west side of Medan Merdeka, houses a collection of historical, cultural, and artistic artifacts. After World War II, Jakarta underwent a building boom. The Hotel Indonesia, the city's first high-rise building, and the Senayan Sports Complex were built for the Asian Games in 1962. Most high-rise buildings are located in the city's financial center. People. The population of Jakarta has increased dramatically since 1940. Much of that increase is attributed to immigration, which has transformed Jakarta into one of the world's largest urban agglomerations. Although government regulations close the city to unemployed new settlers, better economic conditions inevitably attract new people. In addition, much of the population is young, resulting in a high natural increase potential. Analysis of the immigrant stream shows that, after the West Javanese, the largest groups represented are the Central and East Javanese. A sizable number also are from Sumatra. Other population groups, Arabs, Indians, Europeans, and Americans, are present in small numbers. Economy of Jakarta. Economically, Jakarta plays several roles. It can be identified first as the national capital and the central place of control for the national economy, then as an administrative center in its own right, and as a significant industrial hub. In addition, its location as a port makes it an important center for trade. Manufacturing. Jakarta has some manufacturing industries. There are several iron foundries and repair shops, margarine and soap factories, and printing works. Machinery, cigarettes, paper, glassware, and wire cable, as well as aluminum and asbestos, and, more recently, automotive products are manufactured. There are also tanneries, sawmills, textile mills, food processing plants, breweries, and a film industry. Finance and other services. The cost of living in the city continues to rise. Land is expensive and rents are high. Industrial development and the construction of new housing are usually undertaken on the outskirts, while commerce and banking remain concentrated in the city center. The Indonesian Chamber of Commerce is active in promoting trade with other countries. The annual Jakarta Fair, usually held from July to August, also serves to promote trade. Jakarta is the center of roughly 1/4 of Indonesia's trade and services and 2/3 of its banking and financial sectors. To meet the needs of the local city population, The municipality operates several markets. The central city markets, Pasar Kota, like the markets of Pasar Senen to the east of the central city and Pasar Glodok in the Kota area, are major retail centers. The Pasar Jatinegara is primarily a food supply center. The district markets are fairly large, with each one catering to a whole section of the city. There are also small neighborhood markets, each serving only a limited area. Special markets include one selling fish, one selling used and new automobile parts, the Pasar Rumput Flea Market, and the Jalan Surabaya Souvenir and Antique Market. Jakarta also has several general neighborhood markets. Transportation. Major road arteries lead west from the center of Kota and east and south from the administrative center in Gambir. Traffic congestion is a major problem, as is pollution. To the east, a major railroad connects the city with all of the island of Java. There is also a highway, primarily a regional supply road, running between Jakarta and the agriculturally productive areas of East and Central Java. To the south, a road and railroad connect Jakarta with Bogor, Sukabumi, and Bandung. To the west, a railroad and road run to Banten and to the harbour in Merak, which is connected by ferry to Lampung in Sumatra. The port of Tanjung Priok in Jakarta is the largest in Indonesia, handling exports from West Java and a large proportion of Indonesia's import trade. Many goods are transshipped to other islands or harbours. Jakarta is served by several international airlines, by Garuda Indonesian Airways, the national airline, with international and domestic service, and by other domestic airlines. The city's main international airport is located about 12 miles 20 kilometers to the west at Sengkering, and a smaller facility is just to the southeast. The central bus terminal, located on Lapangan Banteng, serves all the city, intercity, and regional bus lines. There are also suburban bus terminals in Jatinegara, Kebayoran, Grogol, Kota, and Tanjung Priok. The major railroad stations are in Kota and at Gambir in Medan Merdeka, Pasar Senen in the east, and Manggarai and Jatinegara in the south. Tanah Abang serves the west and traffic to Merak. Traffic jams occur particularly during the morning and afternoon rush hours. Public transportation in the city is by bus or minibus. The Becak, or tricycle taxi, is used only for local neighborhood transportation, and regular taxis now operate throughout the metropolitan area. Health. Jakarta is the center for many health facilities in Indonesia. There are more than 24 major hospitals, including those operated directly by the Department of Health, the Roman Catholic Church, and the Protestant Mission. Municipal hospitals serve separate areas of the city. In addition, there are several hundred general clinics or polyclinics located throughout the city. A quarantine hospital in operation in Tanjung Priok. The city also operates a hospital and rehabilitation center for the mentally ill and destitute, and there are many family planning and childcare clinics. Education. To meet the needs for primary education, many new elementary schools and secondary schools have been built, and a number of old school buildings have been renovated. There is a well-developed system of kindergartens, elementary schools, madrasas, religious schools, secondary schools, and high schools. There are also many vocational and special schools and more than 100 universities, academies, and institutes for higher learning. The largest and best-known university is the University of Indonesia, founded 1950. History of Jakarta. The first settlements on the site of Jakarta were established at the mouth of the Ciliwung, perhaps as early as the 5th century AD. The city's official history, however, starts in 1527, when the Sultan of Bantam defeated the Portuguese there and called the place Jayakarta Sundanese, glorious fortress. The Dutch, under the leadership of Jan Pieter Soenkoon, captured and razed the city in 1619, after which the capital of the Dutch East Indies, a walled township, Batavia, was established on the site. The colonial history of the city can be divided into three major periods. First was that of the Dutch East India Company, when most of the activities of the city centered around the fortress and the company warehouses. At that time, the city somewhat resembled a typical Dutch town, complete with canals. The second period began in the early 1800s, when the city was extended to include higher and more healthful areas to the south, which would later become the seat of the new colonial government. A brief interval of British control during the Napoleonic Wars, ending in 1815, interrupted the second period. During the third period, which lasted from about the 1920s to 1941, the city became modernized. The colonial era ended when Indonesia was occupied by Japanese forces in World War II. After the war, the city was briefly occupied by the Allies, and then was returned to the Dutch. During the Japanese occupation, and again after Indonesian nationalists declared independence on August 17, 1945, the city was renamed Jakarta. The Dutch name Batavia remained the internationally recognized name until full Indonesian independence was achieved, and Jakarta was officially proclaimed the national capital, and its present name recognized on December 27, 1949. Jakarta has undergone tremendous growth and development since Indonesia's independence. During the 1950s, the city began its transformation as President Sukarno supported large-scale construction projects. The city's infrastructure was modernized and office towers rose. Jakarta became one of the largest metropolises of tropical Asia and emerged as a financial and commercial center during the tenure of Suharto, whose reign was marked by widespread corruption and nepotism. After decades of economic growth, the city and the country were hit hard by a financial crisis in Asia in 1997–98. Widespread anti-government protests and rioting ensued, which claimed the lives of more than 500 people. Suharto was forced to resign in 1998. Thus, at the outset of the 21st century, Indonesia and Jakarta were undergoing a dramatic economic, political, and social transition.